So the next section is she's entitled Atheism versus Civilization.
Dun, dun, dun.
And she says in Romans 1, Paul warns that idols lead to destructive behavior, right? To
Right.
moral and social breakdown.
I mean, just think about what we've talked about so far. You're nothing but meat. You have no. You're nothing but stardust. You're essentially a slave. What actions will come from teaching people that, believing that?
Yeah.
I mean, clearly there are implications. Your belief system isn't divorced from your action system.
Yeah. If I don't believe that there's a wall in front of me, right, and I've given this illustration before, and I take off running, right, my belief system is going to have a drastic effect on my nose.
Yeah.
Right. So she says that amazingly, some secular thinkers recognize Paul's warning, and she quotes here philosopher Saul Smolinski. He's a determinist who regards free agency as an illusion, right? Yet he considers it a fortunate illusion because it makes, notice, civilized life possible.
I mean, that's not just, you happen to have a blind spot in your eye and nothing's really happened. Just all of civilization rests on the fact that we have this fortunate illusion.
Right. And so he urges society's elites to persuade people that they are responsible agents in order to maintain a healthy sense of moral duty and responsibility.
Yeah. So he can believe that free will is an illusion. That's fine. And he can write books.
And he can know that that's the case.
He is the most dangerous person in society. He is letting out the secret.
Yeah.
But he should be locked in a cave.
That's right. He's the one that's unpersuaded, right?
Man. Yeah.
Yeah. And so Smolinski here, she says, summarizes by saying, we cannot live adequately with a complete awareness of the absence of free will. Thus, we ought to hold on to those central but incoherent or contradictory beliefs in the free will case, right? And so she makes the point, what are the telltale phrases that is challenging general revelation? In other words, what the world is really like. What are those phrases? Well, his admission, she says, that we cannot live on the basis of what his worldview teaches, that we ought to hold on to a contradictory belief in free will.
Ooh, oughts.
Yeah.
Those nasty ought words.
Yeah, really. So, his materialistic worldview then gives him no basis for any moral ought, as you're mentioning here, right? Because that word implies that humans are capable of making moral choices when he's already said we're not able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's so a review of his book points out that he is an advocate of as she has been saying, a two-tier system. Right? There are those in the know, mostly philosophers and scientists, who know what's going on, right? Who are, as you mentioned, probably based on what he's saying, the most dangerous people in the world.
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely.
And then there's the rest of us, right? Who are
the plebes?
That's right. The bumbling, stumbling,
the dirt eaters. Yeah, and again, nothing new under the sun. This is what Gnosticism was. The secret things that they were to reveal, and they, if you were a Gnostic, you were kind of judged by what leader you adhered to. And granted, most of those leaders all died out because of if you have a secret group, if you let everybody in, it's not the best thing in the world.
It's not secret anymore.
Yeah, but it never led to the downfall of Western civilization here.
So she tells us that when we hear people talk about ideas that are false yet necessary for humane social order, that's a signal that they have bumped up against the hard edge of reality that does not fit their worldview.
Tony's wall.
That's the wall that smashes the nose, right?
Yeah.
They have stumbled upon the truths of general revelation, the way God has really, created the world, basically. And they're seeking to suppress those truths by demoting them to useful fictions. In other words, putting them up in the second story or the second part of the box, or sticking out of the box, right? That sort of thing. And she says it's remarkable how Paul's description in Romans 1 of the dynamics of suppression makes sense of the latest modern worldviews.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.